You're listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in the esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is Sunday, April 8th, and we're covering week 1 of stage 3 of the Overwatch League. Alright, Jax, you are proving why I need to write things down because I cannot get it right on the first time. But that said, here we are, Jax. We are starting stage 3 this time, not week 2, as you might have heard if you were here live. Some interesting things going on in the league this week. Most importantly, Dreamcaster suspended for inappropriate interactions with a person of underage. Unfortunately, this is going to have a huge impact going forward. I sort of wanted to just talk a little bit off the top on this and the implications for the Boston Uprising. Huge impact if he is going to be suspended / no longer going to be available at all.
If you're saying if, when
I mean,
it's looking like it's
accused. It's accused right now, right? So that's accused, where we are.
The Reddit detectives have found some corroborating evidence to back up the claim, and if we're being honest,
it looks like
he's done, dude. I think he's done, which is sad because as we were going to go into, Boston had one of their best weeks ever.
Largely off of him playing some of the best he's played. And we've seen him play really good before, and now you're looking at one of your star players leaving, and this has to be. I mean, obviously, it's if it is true, then hopefully it will destroy him because I don't. It's just such a bad thing to have done. Period. Right? Like to not be mature enough not to recognize that and to not see the damage you're going to do, not only to your own career, but more importantly, like to the person that you're being involved with. It's just bad all around, and hopefully this is like a larger lesson for the league, obviously other players, but also for the management, that you have to go through with these young players and teach them the importance of not being involved in this stuff, because it has implications for your team.
I'm sorry. No, he's 21 years old.
He has
to be told not to engage in inappropriate conversations with a 14-year-old?
I mean, the basics are there. People should know, right? But
come on.
But this is more about ego management, and we've seen teams already fail because of ego management. And here is maybe more of a personal expression of what I'm calling ego management. You know, sometimes that ego comes in, like in the sense of some teams breaking apart, i.e. Valiant, because of certain people not wanting to play together or whatever have you. Here, this is one where he got wrapped up with not thinking with his head, but thinking with another appendage instead.
Oh boy!
And
PG podcast here at Outlaws. PG.
I mean, yeah. That's what we want to keep it, and that's what the league should try and aim for, and that's what the players should try to aim for too. I'm sorry to say it didn't happen here, and unfortunately, it's going to be hurting Boston chances in the future after watching a week where I personally picked them to win both games. And,
it hurts Boston.
To watch this happen.
Well, one, because the signing period is gone. They cannot, they can't find someone to replace him. That means mistakes has to come in off the bench. We've seen very little of mistakes. I'm pretty sure the fact that we've seen so little of him means that he's not exactly,
same
can't carry like Dreamcasper did, right? We saw. I mean, we're going to get into it, but Dreamcasper, whether it was on the Genji or some of his Widow plays or whatever he flexed to this past week, did so much for that team. Him and Stryker together were just amazing, and it's just done. It's sad, man. It's sad. Like this team who started the league, everybody had no expectations for Boston. Everybody laughed at the roster that Boston had put out. And we go from now where after this week, everybody's saying, are they a potential playoff team, not just for this stage, but for the entire first season, to now you're saying, well, Boston are going to drop down there with Shanghai because they're done.
I mean, do you see them going as far down as Shanghai? Like, I could definitely see them starting to compete with, like, Fuel and Shock down there. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to be as bad as Shanghai Dragons, right? Like, your tank line's still good. Gamsu's still there, right? I don't know. It's disappointing. It's disappointing how the behavior, it's frustrating, and it's going to hurt the team in the long term. Like I
Okay.
think their chances for this playoff completely done, and I suspect stage 4 is not going to be any better, which also means they're going to likely be out of contention for
I mean,
the overall
looking at
playoffs.
it, right? I'm looking right now. They're third. It's only been 1 week, so there's not much to work with here. But Fusion, I'm just going to go through every team that's below them and whether or not I think that team now has a potential to pass Boston. Philadelphia Fusion. Oh, can they pass Boston? Sure. Gladiators, depends on if the Gladiator DPS wants to play that day, but yes, they can as well. Dallas Fuel, depending on OGE, and quite honestly, I don't see how OGE could be a downgraded main thing compared to what they currently have. I think that's almost impossible. So the Fuel will improve. Soul Dynasty, yes. San Francisco Shock. I think the Shock from now are only going to get better. Today, they announced Choyo Bin Lepelos from X6. So X6 being gutted even further, having already lost Architect, and who was the other player they lost? I forget, but they lost him. So, San Francisco Shock now have Super and 150K and Architect and Choyo Bin. And so there's nothing but, for me, there's nothing but upside for that team. Houston Outlaws, bit of an iffy week. They had their highs, they had their lows. But again, another team that I now think Boston will fall below. London Spitfire, it's a shock to see them. Well, it's kind of a spoiler for the podcast, but it's kind of a shock to see them down there third from bottom.
Yeah,
But do you think Boston's going to pass them? No, finish above them? No, I don't. So we're left with the Florida Mayhem and the Shanghai Dragons. Florida with Saya player,
has
it's
potential to beat
interesting.
them. Yeah,
Right now Boston goes from third in the league to third from bottom for me.
yeah.
Anywhere they'll finish above Shanghai, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Florida finish above them because I'm sorry, Dreamcatcher was it, man. Yes, Gamsu, Neko, Striker, they all played well, right? But think about what we saw from Boston this week and what Dreamcatcher did, and you take that out, they are done. I'm sorry. You would say, well, they got missed. So Huck wouldn't have signed him if he wasn't good. Who
I
knows?
mean, he might be
He's
right, but
not
he doesn't
Dreamcast.
mean he's ready right now, Jax. I agree with you. I'm 100%. I do see them dropping. They already have a couple wins under their belt, which might be enough to put them above uh, the Florida Mayhem or
Right.
Shanghai Dragons. So if they can squeak out another win or two, I have to look at their schedule to see if they're playing those teams. I think they might still be able to beat them, or even Fuel, depending on how Fuel is playing. They still might be able to get another 2 or 3 wins, which puts them maybe above some of those teams. So bottom 4, bottom 5, somewhere in there. Jax, let's go ahead though. Start talking about some of the games this week in general. I think that's a good transition. Unless there's anything else off the top that you want to get into, I think we can just go ahead and start talking about the stage.
No, it's just my hopefully my internet holds up. I missed a lot of what you just said. Before we jump into it, I just want to tell you the first game Boston plays next week, New York Excelsior. The second game, the Florida Mayhem. That second game, and it's the last game of the week, will probably determine where they finish on the stage. I think we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah,
we might as
you
well
see
jump
how
to the
they perform
rundown.
then. Also, week 4 they play against Shanghai Dragons and the Fuel in week 4, so they still have some of the weaker teams later on in the schedule. Uh, so yeah, we'll see how they can perform without their former top tier DPS. Jax, week 1, game 1. One of these two teams is going to be leading after their first win here of the stage, first win in a while between these two teams, between Shanghai Dragons, Dallas Fuel, game 1. We had an interesting thing happen on the desk where everyone picked Shanghai Dragons. We did not here on the podcast because we like to keep it real. Did not buy into the hype. Let's just go through the map score line here. Volskaya Industries 2-1, Nimbani 2-1, Ilios 2-0, all going the side of the Fuel. Junkertown, good on Shanghai Dragons to bring that one to their side with a 2-1 victory there. But overall, match score line 3-1, Dallas Fuel. How did you feel about this match?
Um, I felt bad for Shanghai. I would have liked Dia to be available, but Dia didn't arrive until I think the day of or perhaps the day after this. I don't know. I really don't know what the analyst desk was thinking when all three of them picked the Dallas Fuel.
Or sorry, Shanghai
And
Dragons.
yeah, and I'm trying right now to pull up the link from TIS Robin, our resident, Overwatch Korean correspondent, and he talked about some of the language issues that Shanghai is going to have because they're working in Chinese, right? So they've got a half Chinese roster, half Korean roster, and they're also using English as their go-between at times for just some of the bare basics here. And he had a Twitter thread that talked about how hard that would be. And when it comes to Overwatch and communication, it's a pretty big thing. Like, you look at Dallas Fuel, one of the big things that we see about Dallas, that the problem for them, we listen to their comms at times, is how bad it is, how bad they're communicating between each other. And so right now, I'm thinking Shanghai Dragons, they have a lot of pieces. They have some. It's just working to put it all together, and they didn't have enough time. They had 1 week in between stages. They didn't have all their players, and now I'm thinking stage 3, they work on putting it all together. Stage 4, they work on getting that win.
Yeah, I can sort of agree with you. We'll see how they continue. I mean, see how quickly they progress in this stage. Maybe they're quick learners. Let's talk instead about another team that's talking about communication. Of course, we're talking Valiant. They're in the second match of day 1 against Dynasty. We both picked Dynasty. And Jax, scorelines of this game: Temple of Anubis 2-0, Nimbani 3-2, Nepal 2-0, Junkertown 3-0, all for the Valiant here. This was a huge upset according to our predictions on this one, particularly coming off of a stage where the Valiant weren't looking so great and they made some transitions. And here they are starting with a new lineup, 4-0ing Dynasty, which was still seen to be one of the top teams in the league.
You look at the Seoul Dynasty, and I think if I go back to our last episode where we did our bit of a preview looking ahead, and we said one of the things we want to see Seoul do with the coaching staff is to not outthink themselves. We want Seoul to guarantee themselves that playoff spot and then start to work in the roster adjustments that the coaching staff, for whatever reason, wants to play with. When you look at this score line, and your mind is just absolutely blown, because you're saying the Valiant, who went through all this turmoil, right, who had all the in and out drama, how in the world do the Valiant beat the Seoul Dynasty 4-0? And I stop you right then. I take a look at who the Seoul Dynasty decided to run out there. We had Fleta on DPS, Munchkin DPS, Miro on tank, and you're saying, okay, that's 3 of their starters. So how did they lose? That's 3 of your starters. So take a look at the other starters that they ran levels. Zephyr on flex, Guido on support, Gambler on support.
I have a huge issue with those two too. I mean, Zephyr I can at least see. I feel like he can fit in well if he's working well with the team, but still have not seen anything out of those 2 support, and I don't know why you put them in still in this situation, Jax. This is ridiculous.
I'm struggling with words, even though it's been 3 or 4 days later, and it's not my terrible packet loss. That's not why, I'm struggling right now. What in the hell is this lineup?
Dynasty still trying to finesse things, I think, in their minds. Their coaching staff has to really, really go back to basics on this one.
Back to basics. I take you to Numbani, where they were running the Sombra with Munchkin. Did you see how bad that was, man?
This is like fundamentals. Fundamentals of Overwatch means making sure your skill is up to the level. Then you can start working on the plays.
He has EMP, so you know what happens, right? You translocate. He drops the translocator so he can escape. He waits until there's 5 seconds left to move forward and initiate on the enemy team. He has no cloak. The cloak runs out. Translocate runs out, and he's standing there looking like
no escape. His timing was down. His timing was definitely down, or like poor there. You can't play a Sombra of that level.
Normally it's the end of the stage when Seoul decides to do this. I don't.
Well, Jackson, they do play later on against San Francisco in the week. We'll come to that one shortly. San Francisco in the next game, though, against the Gladiators.
Oh boy,
Jax, and we had both picked. Picked Gladiators here. I had faith in Gladiators. One wild card here was not Sinatra this time. It was Super coming in and really making an impact here against the Gladiators. San Francisco 3-1 over the Gladiators in this one. I'm just going to go with map score lines here. interrupt me if you want to talk about a certain one. 4-3 Volskaya Industries. Gladiators starting it off well there, although that was still a pretty close one. Numbani 4-3, another close one. And then from there, so that was 1-1 after those two maps. The Gladiators taking Volskaya, San Francisco Shock taking Numbani. 2-0 Ilios to Shock, and 3-1 Junkertown to Shock. Now, I don't know what you want to talk about. I would mention maybe Ilios coming out and how poorly Gladiators did on that, and running a different Ilios lineup than they had formerly. And by the way, I don't think we saw Hydration play.
No, we didn't see Hydration play at all. We did see Silk Threat, their newest signing. Actually, Silk Threat started out on Volskaya. I'm gonna take you to Numbani and Ilios and Junkertown, the last three maps of the series, and I'm gonna harp on something I've talked about before, and that is Surefour. And I told you again, if the during the series, I said if the Gladiators decide to not play Surefour again the rest of this stage, I would not have a problem with that. He's terrible as of right now, and people, you can jump on me all you want for saying Surefour is terrible. Terrible in the sense that he is nowhere near the level that he once was, that he is nowhere near the level that he needs to be for this team, for him to play in 3 of the 4 maps. When they went to Ilios, I'm saying, okay, Hydration in, or at least Silk Thread in, because if you take a look at Ilios, right, there's Well, Ruins, Lighthouse, Genji, Farah, 4 days. That's Hydration all around. Or if they want to go to the Ruins and they want to run that weird strat where Hydration was on Ilia or it's on Lucio, that's also a thing here. Surefour and his Widowmaker can go away. I would, if I never see it again, that's fine. He has moments. They're too rare and too far in between. The key here, though, as bad as Surefour was Dante and his interaction with Fisher.
So
Fisher tweeted
good.
after the game. No, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so good. I mean, we had a conversation a while back about the Sombra hacks coming through here. And Dante, apparently a good Sombra player, now with that increased hack time, decreased hack time, increased hack rate. Huge play coming out of him here on the Sombra. And we've talked about certain checks before. Jax, this game sort of looking like Winston's tank lines are going to have a hard time here meeting the Sombra check, because you're going to mention the public reaction of Fisher, the Twitter on this one. I forget what he said precisely. If you know that, Jax, go ahead and jump in there. I'm sorry to interrupt you on that.
I actually just went to his Twitter page to get the link for the stream here. It says GG's San Francisco Shock. He always hack me. Stop hack Dante. Putting the English aside, you pretty much get what he's trying to say. Dante hacked him repeatedly, and for me, it's a weakness, because it's a weakness for the Gladiators, because going into stage 2, Fisher was the thing that completely turned this team around. And now you have Dante in San Francisco focusing him with the Sombra hacks to where Winston can't jump, Winston can't bubble. He's got the tickle cannon. He can punch, but, that's not enough. And when they shut down Fisher, when they frustrate Fisher, yes, he's a professional, but he's still frustrated, right? Who knows what kind of mental errors might happen as a result of this.
Yeah.
And when
not
you
only
have
that,
your main tank struggling,
not only that, he's also like the shot caller of the team too, though.
Right.
So
when your main tank is struggling, when you have questionable DPS, and yes, people, Surefour is a questionable DPS player when he cannot hang with the others. Like, I'm not gonna get into it, because I have done it, and Toasty like in chat here will give me a clock shortly, but I have serious questions about them running Surefour on all 3 maps. I don't understand why Hydration isn't there. And if it's not Hydration, then after the performance that they had on Volskaya where they won, I don't know why Silk Thread is not brought back in. I have no idea. So going forward, fields might not be as up as much as they were last stage, but starting out the stage, very sad result right here. Congrats to San Francisco, though. They are improving upon their stage 2 ending. They're getting more. Architect not even here, man. When Architect's supposed to be the better DPS, San Francisco, a lot of upsides. We'll see.
Yeah, Jax, speaking of time, though, let's go ahead and move on to day 2, game 1. This one will be quick. Florida Mayhem versus New York Excelsior. Quick map score: 3-2 Volskaya, 2-1 Blizzard World, 2-0 Ilios, and 3-2 Route 66. Defense pretty strong here for NYXL overall. I mean, good that Florida capped out Volskaya Industries, but that's about it in terms of how I feel about their performance here. They had minor moments, but Jay Jonak, so strong. Particularly him. Obviously, Fleta, good performance, but I don't think Florida really handled Jonak whatsoever. And you got to look at the difference here between the Florida tank line and the New York Excelsior style of protecting Jay Jonak as the particular issue facing this matchup.
No, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say no one ever really handles Jonak. I was watching, Insight on Esports about half hour ago where Custa and Clockwork were both talking about how good the guy is and how much of New York's strategy revolves around just protecting Jonak. It's not protect the president, protect the Bastion. It's about protecting Jonak so that he has enough time to kill the entire team. Interesting from Florida though, Lepelos, we saw a Saya player come in for Logix. We saw Saya player come in for Tavik. This is the first time I can ever remember seeing Tavik be put on the back, So whether it was with Rogue or Misfits or now Florida Mayhem, or with Florida now, Tavik is no longer that guaranteed pick. And it's something that I just wanted to stop and think about. Or if you go back to the old time juggernauts of DPS for professional Overwatch, right? You had Taimu, you had Surefour, you had Tavik, you had AKM, and now all of these old juggernauts, right? They're not so juggy anymore.
Yeah, I mean the consistency
of them
interesting. Has been in question, particularly as they moved into Overwatch League. I do think Saya player particularly did well on the Widowmaker here against NYXL, which, by the way, I still think is probably the weakness of NYXL, except for how they handled Fleta. So asterisk on when they perform well and get a Widowmaker uncomfortable. I still think their weakness is particularly there because Sabiolbi or Libero not that great on Widowmaker relative to some of these others. Anyways, Jax, let's move into Game 2 of Day 2. This was the Philadelphia Fusion taking on Boston Uprising. This is one we actually differed on, Jax. You were going with the Fusion. They're hard off a good run there in the playoffs to get into the finals. I ended up going with the Uprising on this one, Jax. And it was a back and forth game. Interesting game, too. Volskaya Industries 2-1 for Uprising. Went back to Philadelphia Fusion 4-3 on Blizzard World. Ilios went to Boston 2-0, Route 66 3-2 for Fusion, and then we ended up on Oasis 2-0. Jax, 2 King of the Hills 2-0. How many times have we talked about this? You cannot succeed a game type.
You can't see the game type, and the thing that kind of threw me here is I'm saying, okay, EQO out, right? But unlike other teams who, when they lose a key player, they're kind of screwed. I'm saying to myself, EQ out, that means we go to the bench, we bring in Shadowburn to take over those Genji roles, and that didn't happen. I think I'm right now, I'm looking at Fusion, I'm saying they're so comfortable now with Snillo that they keep Shadowburn on the bench.
Yeah,
coming into Overwatch League, Shadowburn, Alepos, I have to now add Shadowburn to the list.
Add him to the list. I mean, he has a stream schedule, Jax. You pointed this out last week. He has a stream schedule concerning stuff of when you're in an Overwatch League.
I thought we were joking, and then when we see EQO is suspended for 3 games, I'm saying, okay, but then Shadowburn is still streaming every day. And I'm scratching my head. And so now I take it back to what I just said about the Titans, the juggernauts of old school Overwatch, right? Was Shadowburn not up there? Shadowburn was up there. And now he doesn't even start when EQO is suspended. So you have Shadowburn, Surefour, Tavik, Taimu.
They bring him in cold instead, Jax, for Oasis. Farah having map. By the way, I think he says he enjoys Farah the most. Actually, I can't remember in his interviews. He's mentioned that. I've also seen him on more videos, by the way, with Joe Meister, which tells you another thing. But Jax, here they couldn't bring Oasis back even with him in the lineup. Maybe he's not as game ready as EQO, but I have to agree with you. Lacking his Genji, I think is hurting the Fusion playstyle because Karpai's flex is great. Snillo on Route 66, where he's well practiced, is great. I don't think them as a whole are practiced enough with Snillo in to take everything else. Blizzard World was sort of a toss-up. Surprising one that went 4-3 because it's hard to get through in the map, in the Overwatch League map, the way it stands, which has that close second spawn for defense next to the point to get through that. Here, both teams getting through, and actually one team getting into their second attack there and able to take that. But Jax, we have another game that went to 5. I'm going to spoil that. It's one we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth. I'm still going to try and keep it short this time, but it was an interesting one. It's the third game of day 2, London versus Houston.
I do want to point out they've met twice before in the regular season, and Houston has won both of those previous engagements. They met in this first stage playoffs, which London won 3-1. So, Houston, one of the teams that might have London figured out, or perhaps they just match up better. We'll see.
Speaking of that, though, doesn't look that great on Anubis for them, to be honest. So Spitfire attack, little weak off the start. Prophet Sombra there coming out for Spitfire, not finding a lot off the start as Outlaws were holding the upper ground, using that Mei to get the Orisa up there. Junkrat, of course, no big surprise to see that out on the side of Outlaws. Having trouble getting through A point, Jax, but not that much trouble once they started getting rolling on that B point. That was a really long fight there. Big surprise, 2CP. Long fight on that B point. But you have to give it for Spitfire. You do have to give it for Spitfire. They held out in that fight, and they had good focus there. Unlike a lot of fights that turn around, they didn't lose people in that extended fight, and that's a huge thing.
The thing for me that I liked a lot, it was the fight started with 3 minutes and 10 seconds left on their clock. So they had they went in with 4 minutes and 50 seconds to push the second point. 3:10 left. They get the EMP, gets them going, and the fight finished with 1 minute and 51 seconds left. So it was over a minute of stall. At one point, London disengaged, not fully, right? They didn't go all the way back to spawn. They backed away, right? And they let things settle, and then they regrouped and they pushed back in and capped it out. That to me was fantastic play for them. Too many times teams would have stayed there on the A point and just suffered greatly.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, Jax, though, like the presence of mind to do that, but I also want to say they're willing to give up that portion of the tick that they had worked on in that final tick there to do that. So they definitely backed off from that in order to get that done. So that's a level of awareness in terms of TCP, and most teams I don't think would be able to handle that patience in order to do that. 151 on the clock, though, Jax. That's overall not so bad of a time on Anubis. Right, you're over a minute, almost 2 minutes. That's pretty good. Outlaws going on the attack has some trouble on that A point attack until late in their A point attack. Linkser switches to that Widow and makes a key pick on Prophet, and then also gets a second pick there as well, and that leads to the Outlaws capturing that A point. But Jax, from there, I mean, a number of fights. Outlaws can't get in on that B point. It takes them a while to get any space on point there, and that's always trouble.
I mean, they started with 4 minutes, with the 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Linkser drops Tracer for the Widowmaker. With the 30, that he spent a minute on that, not really doing much. With 30 seconds left, Linkser got the pick on the Bird Ring, who had pushed in and overextended. He then got the pick on Prophet and Bedosin. And with 3 kills from one Widowmaker, that finally got them the cap in overtime. I do want to point out Linkser also got Gesture there. So 4 kills for Linkser is what finally got the Houston Outlaws into it and left them with, 4 minutes to push the second point.
Yeah, and if we can stick on that point, Linkser actually is the reason, again, why on B point they got what little progress they did. He got a pick on Bedosin and Prophet to start a fight. Jake, I mean, that OT fight kept on happening as well later on. And Jake, when he got a 2-kill Riptire, kept him in a fight, but that was like a losing fight. I have to say, like, any progress here largely came off of Linkser's picks to start fights here. Unfortunately,
Jake's
not
Sombra
enough.
Just did not impress me at all. I think it was at 2 minutes left, Lepelos. The Outlaws had 5 ultimates. Jake initiated with EMP. He had no backup because it was not communicated properly. They ended up using 4 of their ultimates there, 4 of the 5 that they had. They got 0 percentage points, no progress. In overtime, Jake, magical 2K Riptire, finally got them a little progress. They got 1 tick. They were getting the second tick, and then they ran out of gas. And Spitfire take that one 2-1. And I have to point out here, one of the key stats that stood out to me was Fury on the Diva, 43-2.
Yeah, the strong performance for him.
43-2. 43-2 over a full map. He didn't switch anything. He's played on Diva the whole time. 43-2. That is crazy.
I mean, not dying as Diva is pretty often a thing that you can do, but yeah, that is really, really good stats coming out of him. Blizzard World Jack, that's map number 2 here. Spitfire on the attack first. Do I like this?
Competitively watching it from a competitive standpoint, you like Blizzard World?
I mean, I don't like the setting is interesting. I don't like it as a competitive map because it's sort of jokey. I don't know, whatever. I don't feel like it settles well in terms of a competitive map because of that. The styling is a little off. That aside, Jax, like I feel like A point is good. The second point is sort of weird in terms of how it comes about by viewing. Third point, a little too dark, so from a viewing standpoint, it looks a little weird in a couple of places of that. But that's just from a viewing standpoint.
It's only been 1 week, so we have to give it time. But I'm not sold on it yet. It was interesting though. We had 222 Tracer Widowmaker come out from Houston. Jake on the Tracer, Links on the Widowmaker. We had a 222 McCree Tracer from the Spitfire, Birdring on the McCree, Tracer on the Prophet. Might as well jump into 2 minutes left where Birdring finally gives up the McCree to go Genji. And
I mean, Jax, you say jump ahead. I mean, I have to pause you there. Jake actually got a little bit of work done. Now, I'm not going to say great work. He didn't finish kill.
See. The thing is, I knew this was slide because you want to give Jake credit. I give all the credit in the world to Linkser. This first point is a Widowmaker's just absolute playground. He was grappling all over the place. They spent most of this first 2 minutes trying to catch Linkser and kill him. Whether it was Birdring on McCree, the slowest guy out there, trying to roll in and get line of sight on him, or Gesture trying to leap in. I'm serious. Linkser was all over the place, and meanwhile he was hitting heads, drawing all this attention. And who loves it when your attention is focused anywhere but on them? Who loves that?
Yeah.
Tracer loves that.
And
as a result, Jake is able to do something, which means Lepelos can now praise Jake for doing something that's not Junkrat.
Well, he did actually hit a nice pulse bomb in the second fight. The first fight he didn't even finish off Bedoza, and it was Muma, I think, coming in to finish that one if I remember correctly. But yeah, I agree with you. Links are doing a lot of damage, and it's sort of funny. Like this is sort of inverse to what the Fusion have said about Snillo on Route 66, which is Carpe Widow having a lot of space because of Snillo's Tracer. Here we have Jake's Tracer given a lot of space because of Linkser's Widow. It's a pretty funny way to put it.
I mean, it wasn't one. Linkser was hitting shots, but how much did London devoted trying to get to him?
And you mentioned Gesture's primal, like you mentioned him positioning. It wasn't until he got that primal rage.
That's why they got the point.
That was why they got the point. They got through there, though, Jax. Cannot say the same about the second stage here. They ended up getting held before the end. Not even that close to the point here.
The Birdring almost pedestrian.
Yeah.
Whether it was on the first point where it was McCree to his Genji and his Genji in the second stage, right? They started the second stage with 2 minutes and 54 seconds. With 1:30 left, he drops his Genji for Widowmaker because Linkser is still a problem. But his Genji did nothing. He had a Dragon Blade. He got 1 kill. I think he drew out Transcendence okay. But they were held to 1 point and 109.27 meters. A large part of that was Birdring just not getting it done.
Yeah, Jax, getting it done though. Let's talk about Outlaws attack here. We got the Prophet Sombra coming out, Birdring Tracer on defense. Yeah. I did not like this combo personally.
This is where Lepelos, I will give your boy Jake some props at the start here, because Jake, he used the blinks to get to the back line. He waited. The camera was on Jake. We saw he was patient. He didn't try to rush it. He was, Badosin was on the high ground by himself. That to me was a problem for Badosin, and it's something that stands out to me now. Sorry, after I listened to what Custa and Clockwork say about and how much I see about how New York plays around Jay Jonak, because Badosin was up on this platform by himself. There was no one who could immediately turn to help him. So when Jake opens up with the pistols and takes half his life or 3/4 of his life, you know what that means. Amuma jumps in. He gets the land from the leap. He gets the punch. He gets the tickle cannon. And Badosin is gone. With your Zenyatta gone in the first opening seconds of a fight, steamroll from there. 5 minutes and 27 seconds for them to meet the distance, Leplos.
Jax, I'm going to just point out, though, the similarities both on offense and defense here of Badosin being harassed by Jake and it's the same thing happened on offense and defense. I mean, repetitive patterns. That's got to be something of concern if you're Spitfire. Okay, so this comes down to the second phase defense here, and why don't we just skip ahead to what gets Outlaws pushing again after they got defended? Is nothing else but a cool Matt 2.5 kill self-destruct, I'll say, because he gets a mech.
Random.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Jax. The positioning was beautiful if he meant to do it there perfectly. I don't think the exact positioning he had there was exactly where, like, timed perfectly. It just, it was one of these ones where it ended up being so perfect, and I really feel there was no escape there for the Mercy on the side of Spitfire.
There was no escape for them there, Lepelos, and then going into overtime. And I jumped to the end of overtime. I want to say London Spitfire did a fantastic job in their second phase defense.
Up until then.
Because it went from 5 minutes and 27 seconds down to 5 seconds left when the Houston Outlaws capped it out. And you know what did it? It was the rat, Lepelos. You gave Cool Matt his props. That's fine. But Jake on the Junkrat with the rip tire gets both tanks. The Winston de-suits the Diva and kills Birdering, who was on Soldier. 3 of them gone, and the Outlaws walk it in. But overall, you know what it is here. I'm going to talk about the DPS because we're talking about Jake, we're talking about Linkser, we're talking about Birdering. We said his name maybe once or twice, right? Prophet.
Yeah, so quiet.
But on their defense, you know what he was playing? We didn't even mention it. Was the Sombra. And the reason why I'm pointing it out is you look at San Francisco versus the Gladiators and the impact that Dante and the Sombra had, whether he was just the hacks everywhere, right? You would see Fisher, you can't do anything when a Sombra is doing her job properly. And here we saw I mean, yes, the team overall bought time. But the DPS of Prophet and Birdering, I've never seen them look so ineffective as they have on this map here. Whether it was offense or defense. I've never seen it from these two.
I have to agree with you. I'm very concerned with their lineup in terms of their... We'll keep on talking about that because there's more things that will happen. Jack, speaking of more things, Nepal Shrine, here they are. They're running the McCree. They're running the Tracer this time. They got a proper setup here on Shrine with... Outlaws team that's facing them running the Sombra on Jake and Linkser on the Tracer, and finding the value off the hack early there, Jax. That's what Outlaws do. Able to get the point Pretty there much. First, able to get some time up on that point. Do their defensive point there sort of get split up at a little miscommunication and mispositioning allows Spitfire to come back in, but that's all. They get basically one take of that point before before Outlaws come right back, and finding Fury. You mentioned Fury doing really well there on Anubis. Here he's caught out by himself a little early, and that leads to them getting back.
Fury was caught out. Jake, again, with the rip tire, gets both supports, and
that's on the next one. That's on Sanctum.
Sorry, I was just jumping ahead.
Yeah, well, don't worry. Why don't we just say that this one not enough, 154. Talk about Sanctum, both teams running out Junkrat, Orisa, Widows.
Oh, God,
Fury on the Roadhog.
I skipped my own notes. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Fury on the Roadhog here. And you're absolutely right here. I mean, Rip Tire here destroyed a lot. But going late, already in the lead, Junkrat for Jake again. You just don't want to face him. As many Rip Tires as you've killed, all he needs is one at an important time. You're right. He found the 2 on the supports. easy hold from there on for the
Here
162
on the
on
Sanctum,
Sanctum.
we saw mirror compositions almost. Prophet, last map, I didn't really like it. Here on Sanctum, he did. Is Junkrat overpowered, man? Like, Prophet got a lot of work done on this Junkrat for the Spitfire. But Birdring, for the second map in a row now, Lepelos, he has been visible. I don't know what it is. I have in my notes Birdring quiet. At one point they were forced at 70% to go from their Junkrat Widow to a 222 Genji Tracer dive because when all else fails, dive, because dive is so strong right now, and it's not working. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I did say earlier, Houston beat them twice in the regular season, and now Houston has taken a second map off of them and is on match point. And I'm not so sure it's just the matchups right now.
Yeah.
I remember reading or someone saying that during the week off in between stages, some of the Spitfire, they went back home to Korea, or there wasn't as much practice time, and it's starting
looking
to
like
show.
I agree with you. Jax, let's go ahead and talk about Route 66. This is the next matchup here. Horrible map for Outlaws.
Oh.
Spitfire going on attack here. They indeed get through A point fairly easy here, running their Widow Tracer combo. Birdring finding rockets early. There was a lot of poke, interestingly, after that, and that tells me, Jax, when you see a lot of poke after the pick and the forced res come out, tells me that I don't think Spitfire feeling as aggressive as they probably should be with their advantage there.
I mean, their first point attack for Spitfire was okay, not the best. Yep. They had 4 minutes and 10 seconds to push that second point.
Yeah,
it was slow and steady. I mean, they got it all the way down. It was 4.13 meters left when Linkser got the pulse bomb onto Birdring, who had finally shown up. The previous two maps, Birdring was on vacation. Here on the Widowmaker on.
Up until that point, Jax. Up until that point, he was doing work, and as soon as that pulse bomb got him down, Outlaws came out, held that point, and then he even switched off. He switched to McCree at one point. That tells you Linkser was being effective on the Jax. We're saying an Outlaws Tracer be quote unquote effective here. Very concerning for me because I don't think. I mean, do we give credit? Like, how much credit do we give Linkser here, or formerly Jake on Blizzard World?
The pulse bomb from Linkser is what opened. If he doesn't get that pulse bomb, I think they lose the second point, and I think they end up losing the map. Or actually, I can't say that. I'm actually surprised Linkser never went counter Widow here on defense. Linkser,
me too,
as is quite possibly the best counter Widow that's playing right now. I think there was another post by Winston's Lab or someone who ran the numbers and crunched the data that showed how effective Linkser is at facing other Widowmakers here.
Instead he went Tracer, and he forced off the the comp switch from the Widowmaker of Birdwing, which is incredible.
What's incredible to me, Lepelos, is that London was held to 1 point and 88.3 meters, because going into overtime, as the clock is running down and the music starts to hype up, I'm saying, okay, we're going to this final fight. Let's see what they do to pull it out. And they do nothing. They C9, Lepelos.
It was brutal, Jax.
It's not. There was no Diva Bomb, Pulse Bomb. There was nothing. There was nothing preventing. They had all 6 players alive. Nothing stopping any one person from just triggering the overtime. Everybody's alive. You're saying, no, we're good. We have that much faith in our first point defense that we're not even going to contest. We don't fear the Houston Outlaws attack. And when we look at the Houston Outlaws attack levels, perhaps London was right. Perhaps there was nothing for them to fear, which is why they let that C9 happen. Or was, Houston just that damn bad?
It's I mean, up and down team, Jax. If your consistency is bad, then it's bad. And here Birdwing still on the Widow, finding Jake right off the start. Linkser on the Widow, does get Prophet, but I mentioned not punishing on the side of Spitfire on their attack, on the 8-point attack. Here, they killed Prophet in a place that you should not get a res off. It's in the tunnels on the attacker's side. You killed a Tracer there. You should not kill or sorry, you should not be able to get a res off on. Here, they just fly in, res Prophet back up, and then act like there was no problem in doing that. Like, what is Outlaws doing that allowed for that res to go unpunished? I don't know. I'm very disappointed that they got that off, but overall,
62.68 meters on their attack.
Jax,
And
Valkyrie, Primal Rage, Transcendence, you don't win that fight. You're pretty much done when you use that many ultimates, and the other team didn't really have to counter them.
I was watching this. I was like, I didn't know what am I looking at?
Jax,
How are the how is there such a huge drop off from maps 2 and 3 where Houston Outlaws played so well? And then now I'm looking at them and I'm back to saying what I normally say. When Jake doesn't produce on the rat, then Houston is in trouble.
yeah.
And it's like every time I give this team some credit, and specifically Jake, I give this man credit for doing something that's not Junkrat related or playing Junkrat so well that it doesn't matter if that's all he can play. You get this map here, and
Just disappointment. Jax, let's take this to map 5 though, Oasis.
oh no, London sucks on Oasis.
Here we are. Jax, we're starting on University. Junkrat heavy favored map. We had Junkrats out on both sides. 3-1-2 coming out of Spitfire. We have Prophet on the Roadhog. Don't like that, Jax.
What I don't like, and this was a positioning thing, was Birdring getting destroyed by Jake in the Junkrat.
I mean,
Junkrat.
you knew it was gonna happen. You don't Jake Jake, right? Like,
he's got 3 tanks in front of him. He cannot. When they lost the Junkrat in the very opening
they were done.
stages, that's so much damage gone, and they're done.
They're done. Yeah, I mean, overall, pretty quick round. They did switch to the Genji at 1.222. Genji Prophet on the Genji, Birdring on. Did he switch the Tracer at some point? I think he did.
It was London went 3-1-2 at the start. They lost the first fight, and then they switched to a straight on 2-2-2, Genji Tracer, and from there
they got
went
one
all the
fight
way up
in
to
there,
95% before the Spitfire changed it. But at that point,
it really doesn't matter.
It's one fight.
Jax, let's talk about Gardens instead. We had Prophet coming out on the fair. They were like, we have this Gardens, we know. Instead, Jake running the Sombra on this one. Birdring going down early. That tells me Birdring is not feeling it, Jax. He is. I mean, he's on the Tracer. You can't die early on the Tracer to, just like that. Prophet even got 2 kills in that fight, Jax.
The thing that I don't like in that very first fight that you're talking about, they gave up the cap in the middle of the fight. Like, the fight is still going on. Like, there hasn't been a full team wipe. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Houston got the cap?
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I'm looking at the kill feed. I said, Houston got the cap. And what am I saying? I'm saying Prophet on the Farah, kill. Prophet on the Farah, kill. I'm like, how is Prophet getting these kills? And yet Houston got it all the way a free 32. Literally a free 32%.
Jax, usually it's me. Usually I'm the one here saying do not give up free percentage. 32%. That's huge on Garden Stage, right? Like, they're lucky they didn't get stalled out up to like 60 or something ridiculous like that. Man, Birdring though on the Tracer, not liking it. Muma, good Primal Rage, and nothing from the Barrage or Deadeye when Birdring switched to that allowed Outlaws to flip to 50%. EMP then works out well later on. Huge 2-kill Pulse Bomb on Bedosin and Birdring to set up the final hold. 150 here, Jax. Outlaws 2-0 on Oasis, 3-2 for the series and the win. What a disappointment if you're Spitfire, and I still don't feel comfortable saying Outlaws looking that good. And that's over one of the top, quote-unquote, top teams in the league. Very disappointing game, I think, for both sides in different ways.
For the London Spitfire, you cannot still be bad at Oasis. First stage, Oasis, they were dreadful. I think you and I talked about it. I think we even mentioned it last week in our preview show for the stage that they probably don't win the stage 1 finals if the map rotation isn't changed the way it is and there's no 2 CP. Sorry, there's no 2 King of the Hills, or the tiebreaker is not King of the Hill in the final match. So
yeah, we've mentioned
their
this.
Circumstances turned it in their favor.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just scratching my head because Prophet does something that so many Farahs do. He's getting all these kills. He's doing all this damage with just his right clicks. And you know what does him in is the Barrage. He goes, justice reigns from above. He's announcing it to the world. I'm here. I'm stationary. Shoot me in the face, which they do. And as a result, London lose the point, and they're done at that. And I don't know why so many Pharahs just need to remove the Q button, because all it does is get them killed. He did all of that work on Pharah without pressing Q, and when he presses Q, he dies. They had them beat Lepelos because Houston wrongly decided not to pull a hit scan to deal with him. They stuck with the Sombra. If he doesn't use the barrage, and for the record, it wasn't a barrage at height. He was at low to mid range. I'm saying you're going to barrage to do what exactly? Die?
Yep.
Which is what happened. They never recovered. The London Spitfire coaching staff must figure this map out if they want to make the stage 3 playoffs.
I absolutely agree with you. You can't drop map 5
for the stage.
Yeah.
They must figure out this map.
All right, Jax, let's go ahead and move on. And there's so much to say there. I'll say my parting shot too, which is Prophet needs to be on that Tracer against the Tracer weak team. Let's be honest.
Since we're at the end of it, and we're just going to talk about Birdering.
Also, awful game.
What has happened to him? I mean, yes, it's just one game. You say, Jax, it's one game. Give him, everybody can have a bad game. This was a really bad game for Birdering. I mean, I did not like the majority of what he went to. And quite honestly, I think they have a problem. When your best Genji and your best Tracer is the same person, you have a problem. Because Birdering is the better of the two at the hit scan, right?
Yeah.
But when you're facing a team like Houston where they've got Linkser on the Widow, his Widow better than Birdering's Widow possibly. And if he can't shine on that,
I mean, when you let Linkser's Tracer beat your Widowmaker, okay, we're going on, Jax. Let's go on. Next day, Gladiators versus Dallas here.
Oh, no,
we both had picked. I should mention we both picked London. We're upset by this one. We both picked Gladiators here over Dallas.
Yeah.
Volskaya 3-2 Gladiators, 3-2 Blizzard World Gladiators, 2-0 Nepal Gladiators. Thank God we got to pick right, Jax. After that horrible upset of 3-2 for the Outlaws here. We had a 3-1 Gladiators, righting wrongs in this world. That Route 66, though, pretty interesting one. That could have gone Gladiators' way, let's be honest.
The Gladiator one, to point out Rascal still in Korea. Family matters. Was it a wedding they said? I don't know. I just know Rascal was not here. OGE
still not available.
This is the end of his suspension though. So OGE next week first game. He's now available,
but not
Dallas.
Here for this one. We're still seeing Seagull in. We're seeing Miki on the main tag. And Jax, Unco in still, and here against a harder team. How do you like the Fuel?
The biggest thing for me, and is that the Fuel did not learn anything for what San Francisco did. Fisher got away with far too much.
Absolutely.
I promise you, if teams use the Sombra to focus Fisher and Bishu, the Gladiators are done for. If the teams go out of their way, you remember, what was it, season 2 or season 3, OGN? It was the finals between Lunatic High and Kongju Pantera, and Eska was on the Sombra, and he did nothing but hack Void's Diva. Was it Void? Yeah, he did nothing but hack Void's Diva. That's all he did. He shut Void, best Diva in the world, shut him down. It's like, you want to play Diva? No. You're not going to do anything. You're going to sit there. You're going to, walk around on your robotic legs. You're not doing anything because I'm hacking you nonstop. That's how they want it.
I can't believe
completely removed him.
And I can't believe, well, I mean, I can believe, but I think we're going to see week 2 and beyond much more Sombra play coming out of these top tier teams because they would be stupid not to. And I
really think it's a weakness for the Gladiators, man. Massive weakness.
I mean, ACAMs are their Sombra players so far. Maybe Rascal will play it when he gets back.
He
hasn't played it very well. He hasn't played it very well yet.
AKM, I think Rascal, if Rascal had been available, this would have been a much better, interesting set.
I agree with you, but the other problem with Sombra is that it highlights your team's communication and coordination because you get a hack off, your team needs to be able to capitalize that and or trust that you're going to do that. If you have a team that's reactionary because you guys aren't that tight, your Sombra is not going to look that good, which is weird because San Francisco's shock there, looking good against Gladiators. We'll come talk about them later in day 3 here, but before we do, we had Valiant versus Shanghai Dragons. Not a surprise. I'm going to go through the map score line here. 2-0 Anubis Valiant, 3-0 Blizzard World Valiant, 2-0 Ilios Valiant, 3-1 Junkertown Valiant. That's a 4-0, Jax, and a brutal 4-0 as well.
This was ugly. As you know, they took a map off Dallas. And you think, okay, you know, here Gajuri didn't even start the first two maps. They ran MG on that off tank. I do not know why he was awful. The team as a whole was awful. I'm glad Dia is back. But now I think the coaching staff has to figure out the best team. They have to work on the communications, because this was against Dallas. Ado on the Genji, I liked what I saw from him on DPS. Here, I didn't like anything about the Shanghai Dragons.
How about the Valiant,
anything
Jax?
Here, man.
I mean, let's take away the Valiant just sort of getting done what they had to do against Shanghai Dragons. I feel like it doesn't. We can't really speak about the new lineup here against the Dragons.
They
Obviously,
took one map, dude. I mean, Lepolos 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, 3-1. That's not competitive, man.
I mean, by the rules of like transmutation, does that mean they're half as good or almost as good as Shanghai Dragons, almost as good as Seoul Dynasty, who only got 2 points on Bonnie against Valiant? Like, I mean, Valiant, are they the real deal right now? It's hard to know, but I suspect we'll see them having greater tests.
It's legit Shanghai not knowing, because the first two maps they didn't run Gajuri. The second two maps they took out my boy Sky. They brought back who was it?
Free Fill.
And you know, they brought back Free Fill, and I think the first two maps went so badly. They're like, okay, we just gotta switch it up. We gotta try something, try anything, and sadly it didn't work. But what did I say? Stage 3, we're going to give them time to figure it out. Stage 4 is when they go for the win. If after Stage 4, Lepolos, they get no win, you might need to take a stick of dynamite to this team.
Blow it up.
Start
again.
And
New
then
management.
start all over again for
top down. Jax, we had Seoul Dynasty versus San Francisco Shock. We mentioned the hacks coming out.
What kind of crap Seoul ran out for this one, Lepolos?
Well, let me go down the scoreline. Interrupt when you want. We had a 2-1 Temple of Anubis Dynasty, 4-3 Blizzard World Dynasty, 2-1 Ilios Dynasty, and 5-4 Junkertown on Dynasty 4 owing San Francisco Shock here. I mean, Shock doing their best to try and stay in it. They made a couple of maps close. It was a fight. Like, to say it was a 4-0 may not do it justice in terms of Anubis aside. I feel like Anubis was not that close, but
San Francisco played about as well as I expected. The difference here compared to the first game for Seoul Dynasty, the coaches didn't mess around.
Yeah.
Fleta, Wakid, Zumba, Miro, Toby, and Ryu Jaehong. I'm telling you now, if I'm the owner, and you know me, I've been saying maybe the owners need to take a step back, and that's, you know, dealing with Hastro down there at Dallas or Noah down there with the Valiant. Maybe their hands are a little too involved. If these coaches for Seoul come out with this crap again with this roster, Lepolos, the owners need to just ask them, what is going on?
Yep.
It cost them stage 1, it cost them stage 2, and you're going to tell me, well, Jax, it's only the first week, it's okay. This first week might have already cost them stage 3 playoffs, because, Lepolos, I take you to the end of the stage for them. And honestly, if Dream Casper doesn't go full stupid, they probably don't make it, because the final week for Seoul, they get week 3, they get a freebie versus Shanghai, and now they get a freebie versus the Boston Uprising. But week 4 for Shanghai, they get the Philadelphia Fusion, they get the New York Excelsior. Week 5, they get the London Spitfire, they get the Houston Outlaws. They don't have space to drop maps or even series early on. They needed to win all of these to get to be in touching range.
And strong competition in the Valiant. If the Valiant have a good run, they might be out. I mean, the other redeeming factor, four teams get through the playoffs at stage now.
No, you're right. I forgot about that. The rules were changed to allow the Seoul Dynasty. You know, can't have the Seoul Dynasty miss another playoff.
I mean,
because their coaches are outthinking themselves.
Chances on 4th place Seoul Dynasty yet again. What are your over under odds on that one? Anyways, let's actually just move on though to day 4, where we had Florida Mayhem take on Philadelphia Fusion. a shutout coming out on Volskaya for Fusion, 1-0 for them there. Nimbani 2-1 Fusion, Ilios 2-1 Fusion, and then Saya player waking up on Route 66, taking this one 3-2 for the Florida Mayhem. It was a 3-1 Fusion. Saya player showing signs for the Mayhem that they have something up and coming that other teams will have to worry about. So far, we saw in the last couple weeks that they can pull together wins. Here, not coming against the Fusion. Fusion still being solid, but signs in the future for Saya player to come in on a more permanent basis. I think with how his performances have gone so far in the first week.
Good old packet loss coming in to strike me again. Saya player for me right now. If I give you one word, inconsistent.
Yep.
And again, I don't know if it's all him or if it's the team working.
It's a new team. I mean, he's getting used to the Overwatch League. Get consistency, even for Birdring and Profit Jacks. We've mentioned issues with that. He's new to the league, and he's popped off at a high level. I mean, let's even talk about Dreamcasper. End of week 5, stage 2, he was flat. Week 1 here, he was great. Saya player coming in had some great maps, some horrible maps. Okay, let's go ahead and
this Florida Mayhem. I don't. Let me ask you something. You think they move above second from bottom? You think if you just right now, if you had to guess Florida, you think they win enough to go third or maybe fourth from bottom?
Well, I mean they're big games for me to like. First off, they have to win a couple of key games, right? Like for me, next week
versus Boston,
they have to win that game. If they don't, I'm disappointed in them. Okay. And then the week after that, they have to win versus Shanghai, absolutely. And so if they win a couple of those games, I think there's opportunity for them to compete with Fuel or Uprising in the future. But second game of the 4th day here, Uprising getting another 4-0 over Houston's map scoreline just for that record is 2-1 Anubis, 3-2 Nimbani, 2-0 Nepal, 2-1 Junkertown here for Uprising. We just mentioned Outlaws beating one of the top tier teams in the Spitfire here, super flat against the Uprising.
I didn't even recognize this team. They are terrible. When I say they looked terrible here. I don't know how they go unless I would say, well, maybe they just prepared more for London, but you don't prepare for London and then get completely rolled by Boston, man.
Yeah, they definitely came out on this one flat. Maybe a bit of a lull in emotions a couple days after their upset victory, but you got to be worried when they get ready. I think Tyrong had that tweet that you sent out mentioning how they misread their opponent and putting the blame on himself there. So maybe there was a coaching mistake in terms of...
Tyrong basically said he was out-coached by the Boston Uprising. I'm going to link it here in chat. I'm going to just read it since Toasty hasn't clocked me in a minute. Today's defeat is a good lesson to me. The at Boston Uprising used our strengths to superimpose them as their strength, and each strategy was our moves. What was more frightening to me was that in order to win versus us, Boston completely changed the way they play and were confident in hunting us. I've been working hard for the players for winning this, but it wasn't effective, so today's defeat is entirely my fault. Outplayed by Boston Uprising. I'm sorry, fans. Please give our players a cheer. So he's saying that Boston took the Houston strategy and beat them over the head with it.
And I think that's a pretty suffice statement of what happened here. Jax, let's also talk about the other team in the game that we covered in more detail. It was NYXL versus London Spitfire for the last game of the week here. We were expecting this one to be a very interesting game.
This was supposed to be our feature game.
Yeah, instead what we get, 3-2 Anubis, NYXL, 1-0 Blizzard World, NYXL, 2-1 Nepal, NYXL, and 3-2 Junkertown, NYXL. Jax, not a good scoreline if you're London Spitfire. You've got 2 disappointing games in the week. You didn't even take a map off of the team that you're supposed to be competing with for the top spot.
This, as bad as Houston looked versus Boston, London, awful.
Are you saying...
I wish I had the clip. Someone made a clip of Hagapin during, I think it was after, maybe it was in between maps or at the end. He was sitting in his chair, He looked as if someone had just ran up on him and beat him up, and he's just like, please, someone call 911 and help me. Lepelos. They were demolished by the New York Excelsior.
It wasn't even that close. I mean, Jonak
No,
just having a
no.
field day out there. Let's be honest. I mean, no team can handle him right now.
There was a moment on Temple of Anubis where I'm telling you now, I don't think Mako gets enough credit for what he does. Custa and Clockwork talked about it on Inside on Esports tonight about how the team goes out of their way to protect Jay Jonek. It's not just Jonek, it's Arc. Arc was winning. He was in a very questionable positioning. Arc was down to maybe 2 bars of health, and Mako comes flying in with the body block with the Matrix, allows Arc to get away and heal up and continue to heal while playing the Mercy. The tanks for this team support so very good. Well.
I think it's better than any other team right now, honestly.
Better than any other team. And Lepelos, we go back to, I'm taking you back to Soul's coaching, right? And them outthinking themselves. I didn't keep track of it. And it wasn't until tonight when I was watching the other show where they mentioned that the London Spitfire played 10 different players in this series.
I mean,
10 different players.
That is way too much against the. That tells me, Jax, they don't know what they're doing right now.
Let me just take you through it. Temple of Anubis, you had regular starting 5: Prophet, Birdring, Fury, Gesture, Nuss, Bedosin. Second map, you switch out Fury for Huyal. No surprise there, right? We see that all the time. Closer in for Nuss, Bedosin out, Hagelpun in. So
no, just no on that,
support,
Jax.
You change both supports and your flex tank. Okay, that's kind of odd. And what happens? They didn't even get a tick. Did they get a tick? They didn't even get the first point. No, they didn't get a tick on Blizzard World. So you go to Nepal. You're saying, okay, now what happens? You take Birdring out and you bring Huyal in. No, Hureg. And you're like, oh.
Why would you do that? I mean,
so now you keep everybody else. You just switch out a DPS player. Okay, fine. What happened there? 2-1 on Nepal. You go to Junkertown, and you go to Junkertown. I'm saying, okay, Huyal is now out. Fury is back in. You're telling me,
Jax, I can't even keep track of all these.
This is what I'm talking about. You can't keep track of it. I can't keep track of it. The team, Lepelos. What kind of synergy is that when you're playing the #1 team in the league? Man?
There is more in and outs here than a certain burger shop that we like talking about on the Overwatch rundown.
Meanwhile, I take a look at the New York Excelsior. They made one switch. Map 2, Pine came in for Libero, and then Pine went out, and Libero came back in.
They've won them
right
all.
now, they don't know what they're doing. I don't know what has happened to this team. I don't know. Lepelos, this was terrible. This was...
I mean, the good news for them next week is they have a bounce back game probably against Florida. I'll be disappointed if they get upset there. It will be a huge upset.
I agree with Monty here. I don't want to see anybody but the best 6 players they have. I don't want to care about, well, on this map we have this 6, this good. No, I want your overall best 6. I don't want to see any substitutions from this team. You play this best 6, you play them this week, you play them next week, you play them for the rest of the stage.
Yeah.
10 substitutes? No, come on.
Yeah, you lost two pretty important games here, Jax. I agree with you, but that's the end of the rundown, end of the Overwatch League rundown portion of the show. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the other things happening in Overwatch League or Overwatch scene. Man, I'm missing everything up, but that's okay because we're talking about Contenders, Jax. Nobody watches Contenders, right? Okay.
Who has time to watch Contenders, Lepelos?
Let's go ahead and start going through some of the results from that, though, where we do have some more matches coming out of North America first. Again, just going to jump to the results right now. And it looks like some things are already set, particularly for Group A, who have played, at this point in time, a couple of extra matches. Now, not all of them are updated as of today, but the standings in Group A are the following. Gladiators Legion sitting up there 4-1, Toronto Esports 3-1, XL2 Academy 3-2, and Mayhem Academy 2-2. I believe all those teams get to go through at this point.
I can tell you, Lepelos, Toronto Esports did complete the sweep of the Mayhem Academy. Toronto, this Axiom guy, I know there's boosting allegations surrounding him. This team is dangerous.
Yep.
Very solid play out of Toronto East.
And with that sweep, I think that actually puts them above Gladiators Legion based on map scoreline too, Jack.
Is it map score? Let me see. What you're correct. They would take for seeding purposes, that probably matters. But from Group A, the playoffs are already set. We've got Toronto, we've got the Gladiators Legions, we've got XO2 Academy, and despite them getting their butts kicked, the Mayhem, wow, they make it in with a losing map line. See, I never really liked that, but they finished 2-3, 7 and what is that? 13 as their map line. Terrible, but Group A is done. Grizzly Esports last night leftovers. Sadly,
will not be feeding us any more games in the future.
No more leftovers there.
Yeah, it's definitely done for them. Speaking of done, bye week in Group B already out, sitting at 0-4, even with a game remaining for them.
Simplicity. 0-16 map line. Yeah, feels terrible.
I mean, they got here based off I believe tank play that right, like was it 402 that they ran a lot?
I believe so.
And trying different things out. It's good experience for them. Hopefully they can take that and learn over time. Simplicity in the second to last spot. They have a game against Optic Gaming Academy. Is it Gaming Academy or just Optic Academy?
Yeah.
That game can define whether they get in or out, depending on. There's a few different scenarios. I'm not going to go into it too much.
It's basically maps because
they
honestly,
basically need. Yes.
NRG playing bye week, right, for their final game. If bye week stays true to form, NRG will take all 4, and then they take the final playoff spot.
So if they win, I think against Optic Academy, they can take that spot of Optic if they get 3-1 no, I think they need a 4-0, and that's the only way, assuming NRG gets the victory over.
Right.
Okay, that aside, 2 teams have made it through. Fusion University sitting at 4-0. Vision Esports sitting at 3-1. No big surprise about these 2 blockbuster teams right now to be sitting up there in the standings for Group B. Let's go ahead, though, move to Europe Contenders, where there's a bit of we don't talk about drama, but there's still fallout coming from when Mosaic Esports broke up and some movements going on. So I don't have all those at hand, but some teams picking up people. I believe Orgulus in Hungary was one of the teams that just picked up someone new.
Young and Beautiful just picked up Tisani, I think, for their last game.
Group A again decided though, Jax. Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Already?
Hurricane 4-1, sitting at the top. Angry Titans behind them 3-2 plus 10. Orgulus in Hungary 3-2 plus 6, and Team Gigante +2 with a 3-2 scoreline there.
Gigante, believe it or not, the Gigante being down there, taking in the last playoff spot from a team. They went from winning Contenders season, was that season 1? Whatever the last Contender season was, they won it, to now being, I guess 3-2. They're tied for the final.
But their map scoreline is not great though.
So far behind. Wow.
Yeah, Team Singularity at 1-4 -10 was in 5th. That's a disband. 1-4 -16. Both of those teams out. Group B though, not completely decided. We still don't know if Bazooka Puppies are Young and Beautiful, both sitting at 1-3 right now.
They play each other. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
they play each other. It's winner takes it.
Winner takes all, guys. You heard it. April 9th. What time is that on?
That is
2100.
13 and a half hours from now.
Yeah. So there you go. It's coming up in just over half a day. Outside of that, we had Eagle Gaming right now 4-0, CIS Hope 3-1, Copenhagen Frames 3-1 as well at the top of the group. So some interesting things to be decided in that Group B, standing for the playoffs. Moving over to Korea Contenders action. Nothing's decided yet in Korea yet, except for in Group B. I'm going to jump ahead to this.
They're a week behind, I think.
They are a week behind, but I did want to point out one group already has had its huge game. We mentioned this was going to be a big game.
Yeah.
7 versus Runaway, and it was 7 taking it over Runaway here. 3-2. Close game overall, although a couple of shutouts again, Jax. And I'm just going to point to you and say, King of the Hill, can you let that mode go? Because my answer is in the zeros.
Runaway I think we mentioned this last week, but Runaway dropping Nepal 2-0, not dropping Oasis 2-0 to 7. When
Yeah, you
When
can't
it's a
do that.
tiebreaker, you can't have results like that. Runaway, though, they do recover Leplos. They take the next week against O2 Ardian. I think you and I today, we finally sat down and we took a look at Ardian because coming into this, we were saying, okay, you know what? Finally, we get to see what Ardian can do, right?
Yeah.
Like Ardian beat up on OPC last season, and now it's like, okay, now they're back in career. They're facing players, and then I was looking, and I'm saying, wait a minute, I don't recognize any of these names on O2 Ardian Lepelos.
They still managed to get Hollywood off of the new Ardian, or O2 Ardian managed to get it off of Runaway, 5-4 on Hollywood. But importantly, Runaway not dropping Helios this time, so finally getting a win on a King of the Hill map here, important for them. So, I mean, they're fighting back. They're fighting back. But Jax, let's talk about Group A right now. 3-0 Element Mystic, 2-1 Metabellum, X6 Gaming 2-1, and Blossom 1-2. Team Kongdu Panthera 1-2. Meta Athena down at the bottom of Group A, 0-3. A lot of these teams completely reformed from what they were.
Bit disappointing, right? We go with these OG and juggernauts now. Kongdu Panthera.
It's new age in Korea. Jax in Group B, Runaway sitting at 2-1 with O2 Ardian and Foxes all 2-1. Down at the bottom of the group, MVP Space, WGS Laurels 9 also 0-3. Both those teams looking like they will not make it in Group B at this point in time. So Group A at least has the action between Blossom and Kongdu Panthera trying to fight for that last spot. We'll see what happens over the remaining 2 weeks. Guys, Jax just DC'd from channel. I do not know if and or when he is coming back. I am going to continue on, though, talking about some Contenders action as we move over to South America. Down in South America, we had a couple of games this week. Importantly, I think we had, well, it's not the same old roster, but we had Isurus, which is the old Karma esport from Argentina, taking on Brazil Gaming House. Isurus actually winning this one 3-1 over Brazil Gaming House. And that one, a couple of interesting maps too. 5-3 on Nambani there for Isurus. 3-2 Lunar Colony, but another 5-4 scoreline on Dorado for the win on the fourth map there for Isurus as well. So that one puts them in close contention to that first spot. But in Group A, we had 3 teams at 3-1 with that loss of Brazil Gaming House. So Brazil Gaming House sitting at 3-1 plus 10. Isurus Gaming 3-1 plus 6. Just W sitting at 3-1 plus 2. In bottom half of the group, all 1-3. Black Dragons Esports, Dogma Esports, Keyed Stars all down at 1-3. Moving over to Group B, we have two teams sitting at 4-0. That's Nocturnes Gaming and Pain Gaming. Incredible play coming out of them. They're plus 14, plus 12 respectively, sitting at the top of the group in Group B of South America. Below them, Converter Esports 2-2, Encore Esports 1-3, Battalion Esports sitting at 1-3, and then of course at the bottom, unfortunately, is Predator Esports in that region. So we know Group B not going to be as competitive as that Group A, and Group A looking to be pretty competitive right till the end. So up and coming for the next week, the game to look out for, but in Group A has to be. Let me just get this right. I think, yeah, it's going to be Isurus Gaming takes on Just W. That happens on April 10th.
User entered your channel,
which will be an interesting one.
Here we go, man.
Jax,
I tell you. Complete signal loss, my dude.
Are you still recording, though? That is my question.
Pause, Level.
You are paused. I am going to hit pause, and we're going to return in just a moment.
You didn't pause. I thought you said you were going to pause. So, well, all right. Yeah.
All right, Jax, I'm going to move ahead on my timer.
We're going to unpause. We're going to unpause.
No. We're going to count down again. So okay. I'll do it from my recording time, but I'm hitting record. You hit record. We'll count down again and continue.
All right.
Ready for countdown?
5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, sorry about that technical difficulties that we're having. You gotta love 2018 internet.
Yeah,
but I think I was talking about X6 from Korea.
Oh, well, okay, we're moving back. Jax, I've already covered the South America scene. See, I've already done that. I'm trying to move us through. You know, there would be clock timers.
While I was missing.
I got to talk about Brazil Gaming House, guys. You know, you can give me all the love in chat.
We completely left Korea. Okay, no, we're not gonna go back.
We're not gonna go back to Korea.
We
don't have time.
We're just gonna go ahead. We're not going back. We're not going back.
I mean, I'll give you the opportunity because I got to talk about it a little bit, but I mentioned the game between Brazil Gaming House, Isurus Gaming, And I was leaving off with the big game of next week being between Isers Gaming and Just W, fighting for the top of Group A there. I mean, Brazil Gaming House should have a shoe-in for another win against Dogma Esports, but still some interesting things happening then.
We're leaving. We left Korea. We're going to South America.
We're
Group
done
A.
South America.
You're done with South America?
We're down South America. We're ready for Australia, Jax. This is what happens when your internet doesn't work.
Okay. Listen, I paid the bill. Please. Yeah. Australia next. Okay. Let me pull up that tab. Okay. Oh, Australia. There we go. I'm ready.
Okay. I believe we're ready to Group A. Let's talk about that a little bit. This is the one with Darksided and Blank Blue sitting at a 3-0 plus 10 each of them. Jax, have they played each other yet? No, they haven't.
Play each other?
They actually play each other this week, April 10th. There's a lot of big games this week in Contenders, all regions. We're going to have to pay attention, I think, this week to a couple of these games.
Time, you're going to stay up to watch that at 1900 AEST.
That's probably not going to happen, but let's go ahead and talk about the other teams. Legacy Esports sitting right now at 3-1 in Group A. Down at the bottom, Serenity 1-3, Kanga Esports 1-3, and of course Tainted Minds at 0-4.
They're done.
Serenity and Kanga, though, they have to fight for that last spot, and they actually have their game this week too. Jax.
Level's 3 hours from now. 3 hours and 21 minutes from now, we get Serenity versus Kanga for what will probably be that last playoff spot.
Deciding game, and yeah, that team that takes it gets into the playoffs. That's pretty big. On Group B action, Sydney Drop Bears already secured a spot, sitting at 4-1. Masterminds GC sitting right now at 3-0.
I will looking at. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Let me just a minute. Gaming 2-1. Good timing on that one, I guess. Alter Ego 1-2. Knock Predators 1-2. Surge Esport already out with 0-5. Jax, we have another battle for the last spot down there. Between Alter Ego
in massive danger here. Masterminds GC has not dropped the map left yet, and Alter Ego plays Masterminds in their final game of the week. Meanwhile, they will be helped though. I think Alter
Ego plays Knock Predators though.
They need to
before Kanga plays Serenity tonight, Jax. Okay. That's 2 games tonight. That's in an hour and 20 minutes that they're playing, Jax, on Contenders Australia.
Let me see. I'm gonna just take a quick. If Just a Minute Gaming loses, they'll be 2-2. I've already said Alter Ego is gonna lose. They'll be 1-3. So Just a Minute makes it. I think
they can all end 2-3 here.
If Knock has to beat, no, they cannot. Lepelos, I don't see how Knock can make it. Only way Knock can make it is if no, dude.
Well, Knock can
say Alter Ego loses to Mastermind GC, right? Wait, no, not if. They're going to lose.
Yeah.
Even if they lose 4, okay, that puts them at -4 on the map line. Knock has got to make up at least 2 games.
And they can. They play AE and they play Just a Minute Gaming.
Oh, they do? Well, I jumped ahead.
Those are their 2 games.
I'm sorry. I was looking at week 6. Never mind. Forget everything that I just said. My modem is acting up right now, so forget all that. It's just,
That's like a lag excuse. No, that's okay, Jax.
Yeah.
But AE versus Knock Predator before the Kanga.
That will decide it then.
Yeah, that's going to be a large. I bet that will decide it. We'll see if Knock Predator can take that.
2 deciding games, right? Let me see. That's in an
hour and 20 minutes. It'll be good. You just have to get through the beating of Darksided versus Tainted Minds.
Darksided is up right now, 2-0 over Tainted Minds.
Not at all.
Tainted Minds at the very bottom.
All right, let's move over to the Pacific scene of Contenders, Jax. I'm clicking this one right now. You can go ahead and do this one, Jax. Why don't you take us through what's happening in the Pacific scene?
My internet
packet loss aside.
It's you sound perfectly clear right now. Looking at Group A, we have 2 teams that have already qualified. Detonator Korea, 3-0, 12-0 map line. This is not Detonator Gold, obviously, because
they blew that one up, Jax, and brought in a new team.
Yeah. Hong Kong Attitude, one of the previous. They always finish either second or third or fourth, I think.
Yeah.
In OP series, and now they're taking second place with a 9-3 line. Talon Esports and Machi Esports have the inside track on the playoffs. Who does Machi play this week?
Machi is playing.
They play Talon.
Yeah, so this is going to be a good matchup this week between those 2 teams.
Does that leave Bazaar? It's still 2 weeks to go here, basically.
It's still unlikely though for Bazaar and KS Theory to make it out though. Both those teams sitting at 0-3 at this rate. It's going to be hard for them to try and catch up.
The Bizarre. Well, here's the thing. One of the teams will get a win because Bizarre and Chaos Theory play each other. That's in the next 5 days. So Group A, I think Group A is almost. I think you can pretty much stick with this, depending on how you want to seed Talon and Machi. You go to Group B, where no one has secured a playoff spot. Blank Esports, though, very strong track here. 3-0, 12-0 map line. How have they not secured a spot?
I don't suspect that they have, but
and it just hasn't been updated because it's specific region. They don't get the same attention. Mega Esports 2-0 with a 5-2. Wow, look at the map differences here. 3-0, 12-0 for Blank, 2-0, 5-2 for Mega. That's not even close at all. Xavier 2-1, 4-8 line. A Bang, is that really their name? Yep. A Bang, that's their name.
Yeah, we talked about this one. Wow. They're sitting at 1-2 though.
1-2, 5-7. This Group B, I said it last week. Pacific region absolutely gutted.
I mean, it's like the South America region too, though, where there's a group of death and then there's the weak group.
There's this.
Although Blank Esports in Group B here is a strong team, I suspect.
Right now, I'm waiting for playoffs to see Blank and Detonator go at it.
That's going to be some fun to watch. Although seeing Hong Kong as well versus Detonator Korea will be a telling game. That one is also coming up this week.
Have they played?
They do play this week on April 12th. Guys,
all these games,
we're not going to have a mega podcast of Contenders teams. There is a lot going on this week, though. In Contenders teams across the world.
Because then you look at Group B, you have Blank versus Mega, 1 versus 2.
A lot is happening this week, guys. We'll have updates. I might watch some, but way more than I can handle. Speaking of way more than I can handle, Jax, let's go ahead and move right along to the Chinese Overwatch Contenders Season 1 over there. It looks like Group B is completely all decided, so why don't we start with Group B just to talk about that one. LGD Gaming sitting at the top of there, 4-0 plus 14.
No surprise.
Team Scatus Gift also up there, no surprise there either, with a plus 10, 3-1 win rate. Lucky Future taking 2-2, and Legend Young Beyond 2-2. There's 0-0. I think Lucky Future must have the tiebreaker win over
Future.
LYB.
Why am I?
They haven't even played yet. Okay, so that's just a naming thing. Jax, they play this week.
Don't tell
they play this week
for that
on April 13th as well.
No, looking at Group A. So today, I told you Lepelos and I finally took a look at Ardian because we wanted to see what happened to the team that dominated OPC Season 2.
Yeah.
We said they're going back to career. We're finally going to see what Ardian could do. And then we look today and we see, well, damn it, Ardian, O2 Ardian has no one from the old Ardian team on it anymore, Lepelos. But then we said, where did they go? Where did Ardian go? And lo and behold, Lucky Future Zenith, a Chinese team, is made up of all Koreans, Lepelos.
And not just any Koreans, of course. We're talking about Ardian Koreans.
Lepelos. So what? Rumored to have gone to Dallas Fuel for that tank position. DM, Erster. These are Ardian names from Season 2 of OPC. And then you go Lucid and IDK. Where do we know them from? Africa Freaks Blue and Michelle for the Flex. And you're saying,
from Ardian,
why will these players not fight in their own region, man?
I'm not sure, Jax, but they're making waves over here in China. 4-0 plus 13. They dropped the map. I'm disappointed, Jax. Who did they drop that map to? Was that against Lucky Future Zenith? Where did they do? That wasn't this one.
They dropped the map to Moss 7 Club, who is at the very bottom of the division.
And they drew against Vici Gaming too, which explains the other.
Poor Vici.
Well, we're not there yet, Jack.
The podcast, I'm a Vici Gaming fan. They lost Dia, and I guess Dia was the spark. I used to say on any given day, Vici Gaming could beat any team.
Now we know why, though.
Not anymore. On any given day, they're.
On any given day right now, you expect them to lose. Let's go ahead and talk about the results, though, in Group A. As we said, Lucky Future Zenith sitting at the top 4-0. Team CC 3-1. T1W Esports 3-1. All those teams wrapped up securing a spot. Still some games left to play, though. Ligan Esports.
I think CC is the academy team for the Dragons, right?
If I'm not mistaken. Ligan Esports, though, sitting at 1-3. They actually just picked up a new player.
Undead.
Formerly called Undead. Did not make enough
Shanghai
impact so far on the team. Vici Gaming sitting at 1-3 down there with him, just one map
He
behind.
played his first game last night against Lucky Future Zenith. They lost 4-0 and just got absolutely hammered.
We don't have forums as to the scene about what's happening over there, but I'm sure
I still don't know how good Erster is in DPS levels. This whole Contenders, I'm saying, okay, finally I get to see what Ardient can do, and then lo and behold, I have been debated, and Ardient is no longer the Ardient I knew. They are now Lucky Future Zenith, and they are once again beating up on a subpar region.
Yeah, it's hard. We'll see when they have to face Team Scatskiff or LGD Gaming in the playoffs.
LGD Gaming. This is what I'm looking at.
All right. We've already went through Group B though, and Group A. Oh, though we should mention Moss 7 Club sitting down at 0-4. Also, for the record, Undead's new name is Hypnos on that League N esports team, and that brings us to the end of the Contender scenes. Jax, we're not there yet. We do want to mention Swiss E-League Sports here, or Swiss Esports League Winter 2018 Premier Division. I mean, the group stage is done.
This is like the Campeonato Brasileiro from last year.
They delayed. Yeah, they delayed the playoffs. It looks like, delayed the playoffs, or they just started in a week. They started in a week, so we'll keep our eye on that. Let's move on to talk about the next one.
Who qualified those? Silent Gaming versus Dizzy, Lausanne Esports versus My Insanity. 1 week and 2 days away. Okay, so.
I mean, I'm taking Silent Gaming here
by the time we come to next week's podcast, they still will not have played this playoff game.
So we're gonna have to go through this again next week, Jax. Let's go ahead and talk instead about the Gamers Assembly 2018.
He just makes things up now. He says he knows Jackson wants to go. He's like, I'm just gonna find some random tournament to talk about. What is this? Gamers Assembly 2018.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow it too, but so organized obviously by the name Gamers Assembly. It's organized by Gamers Assembly. It's a French tournament here with €8,000 in the prize pool, which is pretty good.
Okay.
It's already ended, Jax. And
I like that.
We do have a winner, and I'm just gonna go straight to that, and that was
these groups, man. What the heck?
There's a lot of groups. Okay, maybe I'll mention that.
What is this?
There's 8 groups of 4 teams, so that should be 32 teams, I believe.
Math is hard. Okay.
It should be 32 teams there, and they each got to play in groups 3 games each. So, yeah, Orcs though running a couple of teams here. I'm just gonna point out all the Orcs teams, Jax. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Orcs Grand Portiers, Orcs Grand Portiers Nemesis, Orcs Grand Portiers Right, and Orc Grand Portiers Blue.
That's cheating.
Dude, I can't even click on the name right now to figure out who won the game. It just says Orcs Grand. I'm like, okay, which Orcs Grand won it? Which one? I can't see it. 1 sec. I gotta expand my browser and see if it will show. I don't think it will.
Hold on. I'm going to. Please don't be infringed. Lepelos, keep talking here. Pole's won. Nope. God, no,
which one though? There's more than one. Okay, well.
Wait, more than.
There's more than one. While we're working on this, I will say in terms of the Orc team, there were 2 Orc teams that made it to the semifinals. One only made it out of the semifinals, and that one team went on to win. There was actually a bit of an upset in this is a double elimination playoff.
There's only one Potiers, right? Potiers, however you pronounce it.
Just one Potiers, yeah.
Okay, Orcs Grand Potiers won 3-0 against Stone in the finals.
Just for the record, that's the Orc Grand Potiers, not the Orc Grand Potiers White or the Orc Grand Potiers Nemesis. Just Orc Grand Potiers. And we're probably mispronouncing it. Hilarious, love it. Jax, that calls an end to rundown. I guess we have some predictions for next week. Let me go ahead and pull that up.
Predictions, okay. We're done. You're right. I completely forgot about predictions. I'm just my mind is
my mind is blown
right now
about that Gamers
because
Assembly.
This one organization ran 4 different teams in the tournament because that's obviously allowed.
I mean, there are different teams, Jax. Like, I don't know.
Right.
You wanted to make sure you're going to win. That's one way you can try to make sure you win.
That's ridiculous level. I mean, what kind? No. The prize pool is not big enough for 4 different teams. However, we're looking at week 2 of stage 3, starting out with my Gladiators, Lepolos, shields up. We're going with the Gladiators over the Shanghai Dragons.
I mean, that's so hard to.
Right now, I'm taking right side for the first day.
I mean, you're not wrong on the first day. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Shanghai Dragons versus Gladiators. I mean, how can you pick against Gladiators on this?
I mean, if they run short for out there, sure, I can pick against the Gladiators because he's terrible right now. But no, I'm taking the Gladiators. Second game of day 1, San Francisco Shock versus the Valiant. Believe it or not, I'm taking the Valiant. This I'm keeping an eye on because I want to see if San Francisco, they've had more time now to integrate new players, to figure things out, right? And I want to see how they play. And I want to see if the Valiant continue with how well they played in week 1. I
have to agree with you. I mean, Valiant do look like they've been straight upgraded right now, and if I combine with the fact that Valiant's strength is not their front line, I think the strength of the Shock's Sombra will have less of an effect on Valiant than they had against Gladiators.
Yeah. And then third game of day 1, Lepolos, Dallas Fuel versus the Soul Dynasty. I'm keeping it out. Here, listen. I'm taking Soul, but OGE is now available. I'm looking to see if Coach Kai does he stay with Seagull? Does he go back to Mickey on the Diva? I personally think he should stay with Seagull on the Diva. We'll see. Is Rascal back? We don't know.
You're keeping your eye on the field, Jax. I'm watching Dynasty to do what we said they should do.
I already told you. The coaching staff
they're listening to
no
the Overwatch rundown
going
now.
To outthink themselves. They're not. I'm not. If I see Guido in for Toby again, I will know that the coaching staff for Soul Dynasty have been paid to throw. They will have been paid to throw the game if I see Guido at all in this stage until they have secured a playoff spot. I'm telling you that right now. It'll go back to when you go to OGN. I had questions. You know who was at OGN? It was Lee Tae-jun. They used to run Lee Tae-jun out there all the time and struggle to win games because he was bad. And now Guido's not bad. It's just Guido is not Toby. If you see Toby, automatically assume the Soul Dynasty coaching staff have been paid.
All right, Jax, let's go ahead and I'm picking Dynasty for the record too. Let's go ahead and talk about day 2 instead. Uprising versus NYXL. Not a big surprise here for me to pick NYXL. Nope. We talked about Boston's problems. Let's move on. Spitfire versus Mayhem. Who do you got?
Spitfire, but again, I want to see 6 players and only 6 players.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
I'm taking it to Spitfire.
I feel like if Saya player has settled in well enough, there's a potential here for an upset. I think it might happen, but I think Spitfire's game to lose, though.
I think even if you can't pops off,
I can say that
Florida still struggles.
Yeah, I agree with you, but this is definitely Spitfire can lose this game. We've seen them lose games. They might lose this one.
Let me just take a quick look at the maps. Do we have no Oasis? Okay. Oh, sorry, Oasis is the tiebreaker.
It's the tiebreaker. If it goes 5, I think they lose.
Right. But no Blizzard World. They performed badly on Blizzard World against both the Houston Outlaws and the New York Excelsior. They didn't kept.
As I said, though, this is their bounce back game. They need to win this one. Okay, Jackson.
4-0. This needs to be a 4-0, and then
I'll be disappointed if it's not. But I said it can be an upset. Next game.
Still not available.
Yeah, EKO not available. We're talking Fusion versus Houston here. The Outlaws
I will take the
trying
Philadelphia
for the upset.
Fusion. Even without EQO, the Houston Outlaws look so bad against Boston that yes, they beat the London Spitfire. They struggled to beat them. And it was London throwing more than Houston winning. Houston still doesn't have a solid tracer player. I'm not sold on Jake.
Carpe and Snillo are going to have a field day, I think.
Yeah, I think Carpe is good enough to challenge Linkser on the Widow, which means if Linkser is so busy trying to deal with Carpe, that leaves Jake to play tracer against Snillo. That won't end well. And even if Jake plays Rat, that won't end well. And I take the Philadelphia Fusion.
I agree with you on the Fusion on this one. I do think Snillo's going to have a sort of a field day now that he's going to settle in a little bit more from EKO's band into this game. Next game, though, Jax, day 3, Valiant versus Fuel. Battle of the trades. You always love to watch these games. You talk about stories. Teams with players facing off against their former organizations. Here, Valiant with Custa on their side versus Fuel now with Unco on their side.
I would feel a lot better picking this game if I had already seen the Fuel game against the Seoul Dynasty. People, for those of you listening, I am taking the Valiant right now. If OGE has a kind of impact that Fisher did for the Gladiators in Stage 2, don't be surprised to see the Fuel wake up, stop being so filthy, and win a game versus the Valiant.
I mean, you're saying that. I do not think he's going to have his...
You don't? Coach Kai putting a lot of faith in this man.
I mean, he has the right mental attitude, apparently, but that does not necessarily win you games straight up, and they need something to win you games straight up. That's not it right now. Okay. They have larger issues, and that will come through in this game.
I told you, I'm taking Valiant, but I'm putting a star next to it. OGE might pop off. Second game, I'm taking the San Francisco Shock over the Shanghai Dragons.
Yes, I agree with you. Shock easily going to win over Dragons here because we mentioned they're still in a rebuilding phase. Hard to say that about a game this early, but that's the truth. Game 3, Dynasty versus Gladiators. Who can throw quicker, Jax? That's my question.
No, see, here's the problem. It comes down to the Gladiators coaching. What is their plan to deal with Fleta on the Widowmaker? If you tell me their plan is Surefour to beat Fleta in a Widow duel, loss. Straight away, loss. If they have worked out something, if they utilize this deep DPS roster that they have, working some hydration, working some Silk Thread, working some Asher, then they have a chance. But I have to take the Seoul Dynasty because, what did I tell you? Seoul Dynasty coaches are no longer going to throw their games. They're going to come ready to play, and they're going to beat the Gladiators.
I'm tempted to say that Dynasty's gonna falter here, but it's like I don't want to create false dichotomy between us, Mike. I agree with you. I do think Dynasty overall, if they play their A team lineup, will beat the Gladiators here.
I think the I legit feel, not just because they're my team, the Gladiators have. If they get creative enough, so they can beat the.
There's two unknowns here for me, Jax.
Seoul doesn't deal with creativity very well. They don't.
And here's the problem: like you have Junkertown. They've never done that well on Junkertown. But then again,
struggles on Junkertown.
Gladiators. Yeah. But
I'm telling you,
Blizzard World is also
winning. If you see Surefour coming out with that stupid grin on his face, then you will know the Seoul Dynasty are going to win. If you're a Seoul Dynasty fan, if you see Surefour, you just holla, you just won the series. And yes, people, it's not me trolling. I don't rate Surefour that highly right now. I really don't. He's far too inconsistent.
Yeah.
The only way
we talked about this for a long time.
The coaching staff really goes outside of the box and comes up with a strategy to deal with the Dynasty. If they think they're just going to run a regular composition and beat them straight up mechanically, not going to happen.
I can't argue with your analysis of the situation. My feeling Dynasty really strong here too, and I'm not going to create false controversy by saying that. Dynasty for the win here.
This is interesting.
Day 4, Jax. We are on day 4. Spitfire versus Fusion.
Check something.
This one, Ikyo. I mean, it's funny that they suspend him for 3 games exactly because he's available here against the Spitfire in day 4, game 1.
So in stage 2, week 2, I believe this was the week London beat Philly 4-0. It was a stomp. 1-0, 2-0, 1-0, 2-1. However, this was the week EQO was sick and they ran Shadowburn.
Yeah. And they looked a little weak. So here we are.
Reinforce even made the statement that the stylistic differences between Shadowburn and EQO worked for London. EQO works better against London than Shadowburn.
Is that enough to take Fusion here?
I am going out on a limb. Philadelphia Fusion over the London Spitfire.
See, I'm gonna say they're gonna work on their stuff and get their DPS back to where it has to be. Birdwing's going to settle after they get their win over the Florida Mayhem. They get their 4-0. Things are going to calm down. They're going to feel more confident, and that will bring things back for them here against map pool, Fusion.
Anubis, Blizzard World, Ilios, and Junkertown. I'm taking Philadelphia Fusion. Take a note, listeners. whichever team's Widowmaker pops off the most, or whichever team deals better, deals with the it doesn't even have to be Widow v. Widow. However you deal with the Widow, if your strategy works best, will win. This is going to be snipe heaven, Lepolos. If you're a Widow fan, this Anubis, Blizzard World, Ilios, Carpe, and Birdring, whoever is most effective will win the series for his team. I just said it right there. It's going to be Widows everywhere. You're going to get tired of seeing the smug purple lady. But I'm taking the Philadelphia Fusion. Lepolos took the win in Spitfire.
Yep, that might be the only game we might differ on. Let's go ahead and talk about the remaining two. XL versus Outlaws. Jax, who do you got for this one? I'm going with NYXL. Right? XL. Yeah. Do we need to even analyze this one? Just better DPS. No, better tanks.
It's New York, dude. It's New York. Until New York, on top. If New York, if Sabobi breaks a toe or Jay Jonak has an upper body injury and he can't play like we've seen other players, then until that happens, I'm taking New York pretty much for the rest of the states. I'm not even joking.
It's gonna be hard.
New York.
Yeah,
then for this last one,
Florida Mayhem versus Uprising. This is going to be this one might be hard to pick because now we're talking about Uprising and can they bring things together with mistakes in the lineup?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of that roster. But as a result, and because of the turmoil I think that's going to come out here, you are hearing it now, people. Jax Blake picking the Florida Mayhem to win a game against a team that is not the Shanghai Dragons.
I mean, Jax, Florida, you're not the only one. I am going with you on this one.
There it is.
We're both picking against the Uprising because of the importance of Uprising's reliance on Dreamcasper. I'm sorry, I don't think Mistakes is ready to fill those shoes. And
I don't think Mistakes is ready, and I don't think as much as I like Striker, and I like Striker because of how consistent he was. You
take away Casper.
People hardly ever talk about Striker. You notice that? And it's not he's bad, right? It's not that Dreamcasper is so good. Striker is consistent. Every single week, you get damn near the same level of output from the guy.
I would love to see his stats from game to game and from week to week to show that, because I think that would be accurate in showing that. I do believe that's the end there, Jaxo. A rundown is done. Predictions done. Okay. Guys, thanks for putting up with a couple of difficulties we had this week with putting on the show. Man. Internet weather was poor. We cannot predict when that will happen, but we'll do our best to try and work around it.
Look, no packet lost anywhere. I don't know.
We ended up talking a while tonight. Clock kept on going, but that's okay. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do let us know if you have any questions or comments, though.
So far behind.
Yeah, we are behind, but that's all right. Guys, do let us know if you have any questions. Comment OW Rundown on Twitter. That's at OW Rundown. I'm at Leplos. He's at Jax_Blake. Find us on Twitch, my Twitch TV/Leplos. Also YouTube, Leplos.
Tell them when, dude. Twitch.tv/Leplos on Sunday nights around 9 Pacific is when we have the podcast. We have a pre-game, we have a post-game. Well, I don't know how much post-game I've got left in me.
Yeah.
But I think
we do that. And come by our Discord if you want to just chat too. I believe that's pretty much it for the night, Jax. I believe music is about to play.
Clocks were better. Not great. Clocks were better. They weren't great. Subpar clock, but at least we had clocks. Last week we had no clock.
All right, Jax, I'm hitting stop. We are done with the music too.
I don't see how long it takes to update.